Hello, welcome again to the Innovative Learning Environment and Student Experience Scoping Study. This video is an update on our progress to date with a specific focus on Workshop 2 findings. The ILESE Scoping Study has three driving questions. Where has existing research led us? What is the critical research that must be done? And how should such research be designed? In Workshop 1, we focus primarily on the first question, gathering the citations of research we currently use. We also use the discussions between the team members to feedback some initial ideas about what educators, academics, and industry feel are the research gaps in their sector. In Workshop 2, we aim to gather more concrete evidence on Question 2, what gaps in research must be addressed? Having used the Workshop 1 discussions to identify 20 research gaps that exist, the aim of Workshop 2 was to begin ranking these gaps to determine priority areas for future research. It is this ranking of gaps that will be the focus of today's video. Workshop 2 aimed to explore differences between sectors and geographies in terms of how we prioritise what research needs to come next. Each individual team member ranked the list of 20 gaps into two clusters, providing their 5 most and 5 least important priorities from the list. In terms of analysis, this allowed the research team to examine the frequency that individuals put a certain gap into their top or bottom 5 clusters. This gave us an overall ranking of the 5 highest priority gaps, as well as allowed us to rank priorities based on sector and geographies in terms of how frequently they were listed. It should be noted that our top 5 has 8 equal places given to gaps that share the same frequencies. This is the overall ranking based on the full data set. Evaluation of learning environments, the design of ILESE, and their impact on student engagement remain a priority for participants, as identified across both workshops. Affective learning outcomes, sometimes referred to as 21st century learning skills, and health and well-being rounded out the top 5. It is important to note that we created a scaled frequency for this analysis, so that each sector, academe, education, and industry had equal say in determining the priorities on this list. In this analysis, it was evident that there were some different priorities for each sector. Often, 2 sectors ranked a gap more highly than the third. We also explored how much the frequencies ranged, showing on the right-hand side of the list. This showed greater consensus on gaps such as affective learning outcomes and health and well-being, and greater differences between how the sectors ranked issues such as student engagement. Consequently, we explored the top 5 priorities for each sector separately to see where these differences lie. Academics had equal frequencies for 3rd and 5th places on their list. While many of their top 5 are the same as the overall list, they also prioritised inclusiveness and teaching. They were the only sector to include teaching in their top 5, and the only sector to not include student engagement. Education had the most representation of all sectors in the second workshop, and a much wider distribution of frequencies across individuals' top 5s than the other sectors. Education showed some differences in their priority list compared to the overall list, with academic learning outcomes and inclusiveness featuring in their sector list. They more frequently discuss the need for a study that links ILEs to academic learning outcomes to provide evidence for increased investment in ILE builds. Both inclusiveness and health and well-being made it into their top 5, with their reasoning showing they are interested in ensuring ILEs cater for a diverse range of students. Industry was the only sector to prioritise hybrid learning environments. However, there was greater consistency between industry responses and the overall list in terms of the top 5. In addition to the sectors, we also explored priority areas by geographical analysis. The geographies analysis shows a high degree of consistency with the sector analysis. The 4 main priorities, affective learning outcomes, design of ILE spaces, evaluation of learning environments, and impact on student engagement, are 4 of the top 5 overall priorities. Health and well-being, the gap that rounds out the sector analysis, was a priority for over half of the regions in the scoping study. 6 of the 20 gaps were not cited by any region in this activity, helping to narrow the scope of our future research. Outside of the gaps presented here, most other gaps were only cited by between 1 and 3 regions, showing that there may be some need for small, localised projects in a few regions. So do we have consensus? The short answer is yes. We never expected to get the same top 5 ranking across each of the sectors and all geographical regions, but we have come close. We have multiple items that consistently rate high, and the rankings point to a need to focus on the complex overlap between student well-being, learning outcomes, and the evaluation of ILESE. However, it is valuable to know where there are differences between sectors. We will continue to explore this as we move forward to refine our focus. Importantly, we feel there is a logical link between these diversities. For example, the overlap between health and well-being and inclusiveness gaps. And it will be the role of the roundtables to explore these links to negotiate a coherent focus for a major research project we are developing. To revisit our project overview, we are moving towards the end of Stage 2. We have completed the initial ideas generation through our first round of analysis and begun to refine and rank these ideas through Workshop 2 in order to help us determine areas of consensus. From the analysis presented, a clear mandate is emerging in terms of our priorities. In addition to the team workshop data, we are in the midst of collecting the second Delphi survey responses. Our analysis of Delphi Survey 1 shows good consistency with the Workshop 1 data, and our next step is to examine how the Delphi experts rank the 20 gaps before moving into consensus seeking with their panels. We are building towards the roundtables at the end of the year, where we will focus on our third research question: how should the next stage of research be designed? Prior to this, we will work through a verification process, sharing drafts of the white paper and seeking feedback to refine this document for use at the roundtables. The management team is always here to help. We look forward to discussing the findings with you and working together as we move towards the roundtables.